There was this whole ritual of getting ready. And, in a Chinese wedding, you change clothes a few times. And my Aunt Juliana had the most dazzling cheap house with matching jewelry and shoes and bags. And I'll just never forget.
Chinatown might be where you're from, the place where you stop to eat xiaolongbao, where you get an inexpensive massage, where your hotel is, or where you go to see cutting-edge contemporary art. It might remind you of how China used to be. Waves of Identity, 35 years of archiving, now on exhibit through March 1st, 2015 at the Museum of Chinese in America, asks visitors to explore selections from MOCA's collection of Chinese American history through an inquiry-based approach.
When I was there, I went to a bookstore and they had all these books that were written in really bad English.
Archive materials like documentary photographs, personal letters, handmade art pieces, business artifacts, and oral history interviews spanning the late 19th century to the new millennium are organized into 8 questions. Concepts Chinese believe in, how they do things, what they consume, or what they carry on from Chinese traditions that connect them to the vast concept of Chineseness.
People would always approach me like, what are you? What's your background? It would be, my response has always been, I'm Chinese and I'm Jamaican. When you're a kid and you're growing up, kids are kids and they see differences and they call them out, right? So you start to get confronted with your own identity pretty early.
Chinese in America have been tagged as perpetual foreigners, a yellow peril, an undifferentiated mass of cheap labor who steal jobs and are incapable of becoming fully American, dangerous spies for the motherland, automaton brainiacs, and the model minority. But is this really how Chinese Americans view themselves? Additionally, do these stereotypes, formed and propagated during the exclusion era, still color perceptions of Chinese today, and whether they still inform contemporary Chinese American identity?
I didn't realize the racism against Asian American men and Asian men in this society until I was trying to get jobs. I had a long period of unemployment, and I called up the guy who had helped get me my first job, and his name was Al Idelson. And I said, Al, should I quit being a reporter? I've been unemployed for nearly a year now, and should I just go to law school like my parents want? And he said, no, you're a good reporter. They're not hiring you because you're an Asian male.
When Chinese originally they were here, they were almost like treated like the blacks in a way. There's a lot of discrimination, a lot of exclusion.
Well, they just were invited to build the railroad. That was it.
35 years ago, the New York Chinatown History Project, now known as the Museum of Chinese in America, began collecting and archiving the disappearing history of New York's Chinatown. In its early days, the History Project captured oral histories of laundry workers and other community members, salvaged the archives of shuttering Chinatown businesses and bachelor apartments, and commissioned photographs to document Chinatown as it existed then. The collection has grown to include over 65,000 artifacts from more than 500 donors, featuring over 350 oral history interviews, a Chinese American history library, and Chinatown business signs. Waves of Identity invites visitors to consider why a group of people would establish an organization dedicated to Chinatown and Chinese American history, and in what context their work exists.
To me, art should be a little bit above the regular, I think. Whatever you want to show, it should be, if it's a suffering, it's suffering. If it's something beautiful, it's more beautiful.
Fluency with American pop culture does not necessarily guarantee identification with being American. Waves of Identity asks visitors to think about the process of becoming American, whether it is strictly a matter of legal status applied to an individual, or whether it is achieved by assimilation, a process of adapting to a different society in response to mainstream culture, the homeland culture, and the spaces in between.